Welcome back to the Raceparts 750 Formula Championship. The latest encounter sees us here at Corby at Rockingham Raceway. We've already seen some thrilling action so far this season, but it's Bill Cowley in his Cowley Mark IV who is currently leading the championship. He comes into this season in a rich vein of form, and I won't put it past him to take the win today. So let's get into the action. I'll hand you up to our commentator, Andy McEwen.
Thanks, Anthony. Here's how they line up then. Peter Bove and Bill Cowley on the front row, ahead of Mark Glover and Ed Pither. Then Andrew Kemp and Bob Simpson, from Chris Goff and Graham Rice. Dan Welsh and Bill Rutter round out the top 10. Then it's Rod Hill and Martin Kemp, Thomas Driscoll and James Jeffrey. Then Conway Dorr and Andrew Lake. The back of the grid, Sue Harris, Paul Morris and Tony Brazier round out the 19-car field. So remember, pole position here at Rockingham is on the, in theory, grippier outside side of the road. So it's the orange car of Peter Bove that has the pole position. And Bill Cowley, fast starter on the inside as they rush towards turn number one, and it will be Cowley that takes the lead. Not a good start for Bove though. He's already dropped down to about fourth, maybe even fifth position. Ed Pither comes through into second place, and Mark Glover, second place in the championship, arriving here at Rockingham, tries to come around the outside of Peter Bove on the rush down towards Dean Hairpin. On board with Chris Goff there in the CGR2 as it makes its way down towards the braking zone of the Dean Hairpin, where the leaders are side by side, but Ed Pither runs in a bit deep. So it will be Cowley from Pither from Bove who recovers to third, your order at the front of the field. Mark Glover is then fighting for fourth position with, I think that's Andrew Kemp trying to get alongside in the number 82 car. Yes, it was. Then it will be Graham Rice in the white number 16 car, from 8th on the grid up to 5th. Good start for him. Andrew Lake there, the yellow and red number 43 car, working his way through as we go back on board with Chris Goff. He's running in the midfield as the leading group of cars start to break away, and Bill Cowley will be desperate to try and build up as much of a margin as he can through the tight and technical infield section, because that Cowley we've seen so many times is great through the corners. Give it a straight though, and it tends to get swallowed up by the pack. And Ed Pither's car, one of the fastest cars in a straight line, and so Ed will be looking to try and stay with Cowley until they get out onto the banking, at which point he might be able to launch a challenge. Oh, that's Bob Simpson going around. Well, 10 out of 10 for style. He recovers that very nicely indeed, but loses a handful of position. Chris Goff had a grandstand view of that. One of the cars that's gone past Bob Simpson is the number 51 car of Thomas Driscoll, who gains a position as a result of that, but the leaders are about to come out onto the banking, and it doesn't look to me as though Bill Cowley has built up enough of a margin to keep Pither at bay. Let's find out. Ed, of course, will also have the advantage of the slipstream, but this is such a long, flat-out section. They're flat out all the way across the start-finish line and all the way through turn number one. They don't hit the brakes again now until we reach the Dean Hairpin, and that is a long old drag. Here comes Pither round the outside. He's at least going to be alongside down towards Dean. He may have even made the move stick. Yes, he has. Look at that for horsepower, and Ed Pither retakes the race lead. Now, can Cowley come back in down towards the hairpin? They're both late on the brakes. Pither a bit too late on the brakes, runs out wide though, tries to close the door, and there's contact between the two of them, and Cowley, unfortunately, is the one that goes around, and he will feel that that was all a little bit unnecessary, because even if Pither had run wide and sort of stayed wide coming through the Dean hairpin, he would still have had the inside line for the next two corners, and with the horsepower advantage that he has in that PRS, you would have imagined that Ed would have been able to hang on to the race lead, but there we go. The prospect of Bill Cowley on a rampage back through the field is quite a tasty one. Pither therefore leads. Peter Bove is now back through into second place, having started on pole position, and Peter Bove, who arrives here 7th in the championship, and that's because he had a retirement back at Brands Hatch in the second race. He finished on the podium in race 1, 3rd place. We then had a race at Mallory Park, which, of course, the last rounds that were broadcast were the opening rounds back at Brands Hatch. We've since been to Mallory Park, where Ed Pither took a race victory from Bill Cowley and Mark Glover. Peter Bove was 4th in that one, so he's not had a bad season, but that non-finish at the start of the year has hurt his points haul for the time being. But remember, we dropped some scores. They only count the top 11 scores from the season, so as we get towards the latter half of the season, drop scores start to come into play, and all of a sudden Peter Bove will find himself potentially right back in the hunt for the title. So Pither leads the way as they come through towards the end of lap number 2. Back on board with Chris Goff as he runs through the Brook chicane once again. I think that might be Graham Rice in front of us in the number 16 GRM. We'll find out soon enough though, because Chris Goff's car is not lacking in straight line speed and should be able to close in as he goes down the pit straight. There goes Andrew Kemp, and then leading the next charge of cars is Dan Welsh there in the orange and white car. Behind him, the red and yellow, is Bill Rutter. and then the recovering Bob Simpson. We've got a few drivers already recovering from early dramas. The blue car at the back of this shot is Bob Simpson, recovering from his spin on the opening lap. He's going to look to the inside of Rutter here, down in towards the Dean hairpin, and Bill's going to try and close the door. There's contact between the two of them. Bit of a witness mark left on the front of Simpson's car. Bob's had a lively race, let's put it that way, and he still hasn't made this move stick because Rutter comes back at him up the inside line, down in towards Yentwood, and hangs on to the position. So Simpson has to continue to try and find a way through. Back on board with Chris Goff now in the CGR2, working his way down in towards the double apex left-hander at Kirby. We're on the longest layout of circuit here at Rockingham, the International Super Sports Car long layout, and we get this extra little loop down at the bottom of the circuit, which doesn't necessarily give an extra overtaking opportunity, but if you don't get a good exit from Kirby, you've got an even longer run up towards the next left-hander at Gracelands, which is where we're heading now in this fight between Bill Rutter and Bob Simpson, as they both chase down Dan Welsh, who appears to be coming under increasing pressure here from Rutter, who's going to the outside down towards the Tarzan hairpin. This is arguably one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but it's also relatively easy to defend the inside line, because even if you do run wide on the exit, the next corner is a left-hander, and it's the entrance to a very tight and narrow chicane. So in the end, the place didn't change hands at the Tarzan hairpin. The one that might change hands at the chicane is between Simpson and Rutter, but still Bill Rutter tenaciously hanging on to the position. He won't give it up, and he holds on going into the chicane this time around. So the break back out onto the banking. The sun, dare I say, just trying to make a break through the clouds on what has been a slightly overcast day here so far at Rockingham. Back with Chris Goff as he heads out through turn 1 and up towards the Dean hairpin. Bill Cowley, incidentally, only dropped down to 4th position, so it's not been a terrible race so far for Bill, but having only taken one race victory this year, yes, he's leading the championship, but that's been more through consistency than anything else. Here are Simpson and Rutter, and Simpson has now got through, so out of our sight. Bob Simpson presumably used the toe down the pit straight to make that move stick. And now he sets off after the slightly wayward Dan Welsh, who runs a little bit wide there going through the right-hander at Yentwood. That puts him under increasing pressure in towards Chapman Curve. Bob Simpson definitely quicker than these two. Of course, he out-qualified them by some margin in qualifying earlier on this morning, but unfortunately that spin has rather put him out of position. There's damage, isn't there? Yes, look at that. Look at that rear wing on the 46 car of Dan Welsh. I hadn't spotted that at first. The rear wing has collapsed. Now, whether that's through contact or it's a failure of some sort, I don't know, but that will be killing his rear downforce. It'll be making the car an awful lot more lively than it should be. Might be increasing the straight line speed, I suppose, but that's about the only benefit. And you can see he is wrestling with the car there as it comes out of Gracelands down into Tarzan. His braking distances will be up now as well, because that rear wing will add quite a bit of downforce. And no, he's going to have a hard job now keeping Bob Simpson and maybe even Bill Rutter at bay, because Bill will certainly feel that he can find a way through if Bob Simpson opens the door for him. He'll be straight through like a rat up a drain pipe. Back out onto the pit straight once again. Simpson was a little bit deep there, coming out onto the front stretch once again. Look how wide the circuit is here as they come out onto the banking, of course, originally built for champ car racing nearly 2 decades ago or so now. Back with Chris Goff, who still hasn't found a way past Graham Rice. He's closing in fact dives up the inside from an awfully long way back. Now, was that a problem for Rice, I wonder? The car suddenly seemed to slow. That might be signalling the end of his race, unfortunately. We've already lost Andrew Kemp from the race, in the race kits Falcon even. He came into the pit lane to retirement. On board with Thomas Driscoll now in the Derby Mark 5, and he's chasing down a rather entertaining battle there. That's Andrew Lake going up the inside, and in fact that's going past Thomas Driscoll, excuse me. The battle he was chasing was the number 27 car of Sue Harris trying to make a move. Sue at the wheel of the number 27 car, and married to the 10-time 750 Formula champion Nick Harris, and so racing pedigree in the family there for the Harrises. To see Sue continuing to race in the 750 Formula these days. Back with Driscoll as he tries to retake the place from Andrew Lake, dropping down into a yellow flag zone at Kirby. So who has gone off here? Is this a spin or is it a mechanical issue? Hard to tell there. We didn't quite catch who it was, but there were yellow flags out. I can see a car that I think has pulled off, which I believe may be Graham Rice, that I mentioned had slowed at the start of the lap. I don't think he made it much further around the lap, unfortunately. This battle is, though, the number 7 car that they're trying to get past is Rod Hill, and he's making his car awfully wide, the Mystic T21-4, and he has cars swarming all over him here Andrew Lake going one way, Thomas Driscoll going the other. Sue Harris dropping back a little bit now, possibly into the clutches of Conway Dorr at the wheel of car number 12. The man who designs and develops equipment for supermarkets as a day job, 50-year-old from Cambridge way, and he is closing in on this titanic midfield tussle that's been going on all race long. We are approaching the final few minutes of this race, 13 minutes plus 1 lap, as is always the case with the Raceparts 750 Formula Championship. And Andrew Lake again sizing up Rod Hill for a move here, but Rod has it covered, goes to the inside line in towards the Dean hairpin. Lake is late on the brakes though, too late on the brakes, runs out wide, careful not to turn in on Rod. That's so tempting. We saw that happen before with Ed Pither and Bill Cowley. When you run wide, there are 2 distinct apexes at the Dean hairpin, so if you miss the first one, you always try and get back for the second to at least get some good momentum out of the corner. If there's a car up your inside, you tend to meet in the middle. In the end, they avoid contact, but the place doesn't change hands, so it's still going to be Rod Hill leading this ever-tightening group of cars. Andrew Lake and Thomas Driscoll now starting to trip over each other. That takes a bit of the pressure off the number 7 car. But it is now definitely a 5-way fight, this going on. For about 9th place or so they're battling for at the moment. Back out of Kirby. You can see the cars all starting to clamber over each other. Andrew Lake this time might have got his way up the inside line towards Gracelands, but Rod Hill will not give this place up without a fight, and he chops across the nose of the number 43 Darby, which again goes up the inside down into the Tarzan hairpin, but Hill seems really good on the brakes, and so Andrew Lake seems to get off the corners maybe a little bit better, but then when they get to the next corner he's not able to make the move stick. Up the inside there though went Sue Harris, and she made a move stick on Thomas Driscoll. Yes, he's dropped 2 places actually, because also going through was Conway Dorr, so Driscoll losing 2 positions, 3 Tarzan. I think he went a bit deep on the brakes and opened the door for Harris and Dorr to go up the inside, and now Sue Harris is sizing up Andrew Lake, so Andrew, the hunter, becomes the hunted all of a sudden. He spent the last few laps trying desperately to find a way past Rod Hill, hasn't been able to do it, and now he's starting to feel the pressure from Sue Harris behind. Sue doesn't quite seem to have the straight line speed though in her Derby 597, but then she tucks back into the slipstream. Rod Hill runs a bit wide through turn number 1. Andrew Lake might have got a gap up the inside. No, Rod again showing that he's willing to get his elbows out here, moves over to defend, and Andrew Lake goes even wider this time and spins and does well to avoid the barriers, but that is unfortunately all of his hard work undone in one moment down at the Dean hairpin. He tried to do that a lap ago when he went in a bit deep on the brakes. He went in way too deep on the brakes that time though, and once you get out onto the marbles it's very difficult to come back from there, and he lost the rear of the car, got on the grass, and the rest was history. Slow car there getting out of the way is Tony Brazier in the number 73 BFS, whose lap times have been a little bit down this weekend as he just tries to get to grips with that car. So this midfield squabble makes its way through. Sue Harris picks up another place, of course, out of that. So can she do what no one else thus far in this race has been able to do and find a way past Rod Hill? That'll be an interesting battle, won't it? Rod Hill in the Mystic and the Derby of Sue Harris, who is alongside coming out of Gracelands. The outside line into Tarzan, though. But the wide line in can sometimes become the tight and quick line out, but no. Rod gets the power down nicely, pulls away from Sue, who's actually a bit sluggish off the corner, and loses a place to Conway Dorr. So is that a problem, or was it just something as simple as a missed gear? She seems to have pulled back into line, so let's hope it was the latter. Something along those lines at least, because Sue was really putting on a show in this squabble that's been going on since the drop of the green flag pretty much. We're on to the final lap of the race now, I believe, by the way. The leader has already gone through. Well, actually no, the last lap board I can't see being hung out, so we might just squeeze 2 more laps out of this one. Thomas Driscoll, though, with work to be done now, having lost those places a lap ago at the Tarzan hairpin, trying to chase down Sue Harris as they turn back through the flat-out left-hander at turn 1. Sue is taking a very tight line there, down in towards the Dean hairpin, considering she's got no one around her, really. In front of her, though, Conway Dorr is now the latest man to try and find a way past Rod Hill. Meanwhile, this battle is still raging. The walking wounded Dan Welsh is still keeping Bill Rutter at bay, but Bill might have just got up the inside here, coming out of Kirby, and I think he'll be able to take that place as they're going towards Gracelands. Back with Chris Goff, who's running just ahead of that group. He's now on his own, of course, after the demise of Graham Rice. And behind, though they're still side by side, and this time Rutter is on the right-hand side of the road somehow. almost leans on Welsh there as they go into the Tarzan hairpin. He then almost gets into the back of him. It's probably the lack of rear wing, meaning that he just misjudged his braking distance there into the hairpin, but he comes straight back at him again on the exit of the corner. We've seen some thrilling racing already this season in the Raceparts 750 Formula Championship, and whilst at the front of the field, Ed Pither has built up a comfortable margin over Peter Bove. The midfield battling has been incredibly intense, and Bill Rutter does indeed go through, finally, finds a way past Daniel Welsh, and now Bob Simpson will try to do the same. This time around, the last lap board does appear to be being held out, so they've completed the 13 minutes, and now they get their one extra lap. There is confirmation that this is the final lap, and Bill Rutter has finally managed to break through the defences of Daniel Welsh. Can Bob Simpson now do the same? He's actually a bit quicker in a straight line, it would seem, than the car in front, but that car in front is going to defend the inside line all the way down towards the Dean hairpin. There goes Rutter. What's going on behind? Side by side, are they? Not quite. Got the defensive line in. Has Welsh run wide on the exit? No, not really, so Simpson still can't get through. Puts the left-hand side down towards Yentwood. At the front of the field, though, the checkered flag is out for Ed Pither, who comes across the start-finish line to win the fourth round of the Raceparts 750 Formula Championship. Second place will go the way of Peter Bove. This battling, though, still going on further back, and Bill Rutter is managing just about to pull away from Welsh and Simpson behind. Can Welsh hang on from Bob Simpson? That now becomes the question. Back up towards Gracelands they go. They're more than half a lap behind the leaders, who will be almost back to the pit lane by the time this lot gets to the end, but this has been by far the more entertaining battle. Chris Goff actually had Rutter found a way past Welsh a few laps earlier. There's a chance that he could have caught Chris Goff actually, because he's not only pulling away from those cars but seems to be catching Chris in front. Back with Thomas Driscoll meanwhile, who's still got Sue Harris to play with, and Sue defending nicely for the time being, but can she do so for another half a lap and hold on to the position to the flag? So Bill Rutter is going to come through, by the looks of it, in 10th position ahead. So Graham Rice, sorry, I beg your pardon, talking absolute rubbish. Bill Rutter's going to come through with his 6th place, I beg your pardon. Dan Welsh will be 7th, and 8th place for Bob Simpson. So that's how that one settles out, and here is confirmation of the results. So Pither from Bove from Cowley, your top 3. Bill Cowley did get back ahead of Mark Glover, which is significant for the championship. He finishes 4th, with Chris Goff 5th, then Bill Rutter, Dan Welsh, Bob Simpson, Conway Dorr and Rod Hill rounding out the top 10 minutes. Sue Harris, Thomas Driscoll, Paul Morris, James Jeffrey, Andrew Lake, Martin Kemp and Tony Brazier. The 2 retirements, Graham Rice and Andrew Kemp.
Well, we've had a difficult day. We only did 3 laps in qualifying this morning, so we were lucky to be up as far as 4th. We unfortunately shared a drive shaft. So to get a great start, had 2 or 3 really good laps with Bill. Unfortunately, tagged me and dropped out of it, which gave me a bit of space, but couldn't have gone better really.
Peter, firstly, congratulations on the 2nd place. It could have gone either way, that really.
Yeah, Ed's got a little bit of extra speed than I have. I'm still as fast as faster than I've ever been around here. I think I was probably under the old lap record as well. So the pace is there. I just need to tune the car a bit. This is only the 3rd race meeting with it, so I'm still getting used to it again.
Bill, I pipped you for the win before the race. You were nearly there. It was a late lunge, but that's racing.
Oh, definitely it's racing. And to be fair, I know always knew Ed was going to be the man to beat, because it's just the straight line speed of that car. I'd love to know what they're doing, because we'd like some of that. But we just can't live with him on the straights, unfortunately, which is a bit frustrating. You do all the hard work catching him up through the twiggly bits and you lose it all on the straight. But it's racing, I guess, at the end of the day.